all the guys that I played with growing up through the years, like we're all still friends and everything. So it really is like it's a good family sense and a good community sense.
We had won an All-Ireland in 97, 99, 2000. It's more local at your club. You know everything, you know the setup. It's different than joining a county panel.
It was nearly like a kind of statement to say, we're here, we're ready to play. No one's going to push us over this year.
This podcast is sponsored by Declan Kirby GAA Star. Declan Kirby GAA Star is a children's GAA book written by primary school teacher and GAA coach Michael Egan. Follow the trials and tribulations of Declan Kirby and his team at Smithgreen Gaelic Football Club. The book is a very good read for any parents who are looking to get their children involved in Gaelic games. The book is available in Easons, Lidl and all good bookshops. It's also available to download on Amazon, so make sure to go and check it out. They're very good supporters of the channel and the page, so you'd certainly be doing me a good favour as well if you went ahead and checked the book out. So I do very much appreciate it. The link is in the description down below, and let's get straight into it. What's the story, everyone? Welcome back to GAA Fan TV. My name is Aaron. I'm delighted to be joined here by Matthew Hurley of the GAA Statsman podcast and John McMahon of the JMac podcast. We're going to be running through the All-Ireland Club Football Championships that, of course, commenced obviously at the weekend, and we're going to be running through all the big matchups taking place over the next couple of weekends. And we're going to be running through our own odds as well, I suppose. We're going to be running through the odds for the All-Ireland Senior Club Football Championship, who we each feel might go on to win the competition. We're going to be running through each of the provincial club football championships as well, looking at some dark horses, outside bets, and I suppose different players to watch out for along the way. I suppose, first of all, how's things, lads? John, I'll come to you first.
Yeah, all good, sir, all good. As you're saying off air, there's probably not a whole pile to talk about since the All-Ireland final, which Tyrone got over the line in a couple of months ago. So it's all aiming towards the club now, Aaron. So we're looking forward to the chat with yourself and match it tonight.
Perfect, yeah. And how's things for yourself, Matthew?
Yeah, grand, Aaron. Nearly done college now. Going to go for a long break now during Christmas and do a bit of podcast work. But yeah, the club championship's been absolutely amazing. The stories, as I said in the Cork video the other day, like it's been absolutely outstanding in every county, not just my own as well. And hopefully there's more brilliant games to come.
Yeah, I suppose it's been brilliant, hasn't it? Like, and that's what I was going to say to you next. I mean, the club action in particular, it's been a breath of fresh air in many ways, because like if you think back to the early rounds in the county championships, the first rounds in Connacht and the first rounds in Leinster and the first rounds in Ulster, like they were all one-sided hammer-ons. And fair enough, we like some of the games at the weekend were fairly brutal, and maybe that was probably partly due to conditions. But when you look at some of the opening rounds in Leinster and even in Connacht as well, that game in Connacht, like some cracking games there, like, to be fair. John, we'll go to you on that, I suppose. I should have said someone's name. My bad. I'm not used to having two people on at once, so I'll have to get used to that there.
Yeah, Aaron, look, it's absolutely brilliant. And I just think the circumstances in which players are probably playing at the minute, like, you know, a lot of lads kind of coming off the county setups as well, but I think they're probably just kind of preparing themselves for next year as well. So it's an absolute credit to the lads kind of giving us such a high standard of football these days. Not easy conditions. If anyone's training these days, I don't know, lads are used to training with your clubs at the minute. The pitches are just like swimming pools these days, so it's just very hard conditions. So the first thing I'd like to say is just kind of fair play to the lads giving us such great entertainment the weekend. Obviously, it's big upsets in recent weeks. Crossmaglen getting bet, Corofin getting bet. So it knocks the club championship absolutely wide open. There's going to be a new winner. That's great to see. And it's just been a very, very exciting last couple of weeks in club football. Like, I've obviously been following my own county very closely the last couple of weeks. And Rammer obviously got over the line against Gown in the replay. A very exciting game. The first day out, second game wasn't as exciting, but it's been brilliant. Thank God we have the club. I think we really need to start appreciating it that bit more, because when the county does end, you're thinking, oh my God, what next? So I think we really need to give the club as much coverage it deserves. It's great to see it's on the TV, TG Carr, RTE. It's great to myself, and Matthew's doing absolutely brilliant work on it, because I really do think it's that time to start really appreciating the club, because you'll only miss something when it's gone, Aaron, you know?
Yeah, and I suppose, Matthew, like, it does seem like such an open championship as well, and that's probably what makes it so exciting. Like, we'll run through some of the favorites and some of the betting odds here in a moment. But like, honestly, like, especially in the football championship, like, there's no definitive favorite, and I think that's what makes it so exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. You had it down to a T there, Aaron. You look at Ballymun Kickham's going out, like that's basically like a county team. They went out to Dublin. Nemo Rangers down here in Cork losing to Douglas, and then following on from that, Douglas losing to Clonakilty as well in Cork. You look at East Kerry losing in Kerry, as John said, Crossmaglen losing in Armagh. You look at Westport losing in Mayo, Corfin, of course, in Galway. Like, there's surprises all over the country, and it's absolutely brilliant. It has its own stories as well, like the Lockmore Castleiney win at the weekend as well. John McGrath, of course, it had to be him getting the winning goal, and it's brilliant the way they've juggled hurling and football. So the stories have been brilliant, the shocks have been brilliant, and I don't think, as you said, there was a definitive favourite either. It's one of the most open club championships in years, like the likes of Corfin are gone, Crossmaglen, Ballymun, Nemo, all gone, and we could have a new club champion this year. Wouldn't that be great?
Yeah, I mean, like, looking at some of the teams remaining, like, it definitely does look like that definitely could be the case. And I just drew out some of the odds here earlier, so we'll just get some of them on screen. So, like, for example, you can see there, like, they're the 4 betting favourites there at the moment. So Kilmacud Crokes are the favourites. Watty Graham's Glen are at 4-1. Mount Belly, Moylock are at 7-1. Kilkew are the 4 favourites at the minute at 8-1. And then you've got Knockmore in there, Dromore, Austin Stack, Scottstown. But like, realistically speaking, like, any one of them teams could probably win it, John. Like, there's no real definitive favourite there. Like, and you've seen over the years as well, like, there's been all sorts of shocks. And even, for example, like, Watty Graham's Glen very nearly got beat at the weekend by St. Eunan's. Mount Belly Moylock very close to being beaten by Balnamore, Sean O'Heslin's. Kilmacud Crokes probably should have been beat by St. Jude's. So, like, realistically, you can see on any weekend that any one of these teams can really get knocked out and, I suppose, be sent packing.
Yeah, exactly, Aaron. And that's the absolute beauty of the club championship. Like, anything can happen on the day. It's just such a terrific competition. And it's just like anything else. I think, like, a lot of teams kind of like nearly undermine each other's like kind of threats and weaknesses and everything that goes with it. So that is the absolute beauty of the club championship. When we see so many, as I was saying at the start, so many exciting games, exciting results. So that's the beauty of it. And that's what I keep reference back. Like, we really need to start appreciating the club more, because it is such a terrific thing to have, watching the TV and obviously all the streaming services that's been brought around the country. I know people's giving out about the prices and everything, but like a fellow was saying to me last week, you know, if you were in Australia, America, you'd pay any money to watch your club team back home in Ireland. So it's brilliant, and like them odds are absolutely wide open. And like, even another statistic, even last, I think about a month or two ago, I think St. Vincent's were relegated like into the intermediate of the Dublin Senior Championship, and that's absolutely astonishing, really. And I'm hearing in the last couple of weeks that I think Jeremy Connolly had a falling out with his club and St. Vincent, so that's why he wasn't playing this year. So I just wonder where he was. So he's a massive loss to the St. Vincent cause. Obviously, Mossy Quinn still goes strong, but I don't think he's much petrol left in the tank, for want of a better phrase. But so obviously St. Vincent's haven't been there. They were so dominant in recent years. So it's an absolute shake-up, Aaron, and it's great to see.
Yeah, would you believe I actually grew up supporting St. Vincent's as well, but I live in Whitehall, and ironically enough, it was them 2 teams that actually played each other in that relegation playoff. So that will certainly make for an interesting conversation, like, further down the line. And like what you said, yeah, like with Vincent's getting relegated, like, that's absolutely crazy. And you see Dr. Crokes, for example, they lost. I don't know how this works, by the way. They lost there in the Kerry semi-finals, and now they're playing in a relegation playoff against Killarney Legion. I know there was a team in the Wexford Hurling Championship as well that normally is thereabouts in Wexford, and they ended up getting relegated. So it really showed the nature of the club championships, and it's definitely what makes it like so exciting. I suppose we'll have a look at the Ulster Club Senior Football Championship first of all. And I just took this screenshot here from Wikipedia because it's the handiest website anyway that shows all the games in the one place. So you can see them there, like Watty Graham's Glen, they got that victory over St. Eunan's, and they're obviously next up away at Scottstown. You've got Ramore United in there against Kilkew, Kickham's Creggan of Antrim against Clan Éireann of Armagh, and you've got Derrygonley Harps of Fermanagh going up against Dromore of Tyrone. So I suppose we'll come to you first of all, John. Like, what are your thoughts on that there? Like, who would be your, I suppose, obvious favourite, I suppose, looking at those 8 teams that are remaining in the Ulster Club Senior Football Championship?
If you could load the screen up for 1 second, just have another quick look at it, because there's so many teams happening there. But yeah, you're really looking like, I know from the Cavan side of things, you're looking at, Ramor and Kilcoo. So obviously Ramor, I think, are 25 to win, 25 to 1 shot to win Ulster, right? So that kind of speaks volume of Cavan's success rate in the Ulster club in recent years. But realistically, Kilcoo are an absolute force to be reckoned with. They are a serious team up and down there. And obviously we see massive breaking news down today with James McCartan coming to manage them. So that's another day's chat. But he's in with the down senior footballer. So, but Kilcoo's in with a huge chance there. They have a serious pick of players. They've, I think, the last 10 out of 10 Ulster championship or down championships and down. So that's serious going. And Scottstown as well. So be interested to see how they go. Obviously with the Hughes brothers flying form at the minute too. So it's a wide open championship. Probably from our side of things with Ramor there, and there's kind of coming in the cost of a couple of county lads involved with their team. They're very strong at the minute. Two lads called Jack and James Brady, I think I was tweeting about them in the second game. After the replay, in the replay, they had a serious game, so they could be a force to reckon with. Obviously, Cavan clubs, they don't have much of a success rate in the Ulster club, so it could be a year for them. Hopefully, fingers crossed, it could go well. It's a massive test against Kilcoo now in 2 weeks' time. They'll know exactly where they're at. It's the home advantage as well. So I think that's it's a shot to nothing. Kilcoo obviously will be strong favourites. I think that's going to suit a very strong Ramor team. So it's going to be an exciting Ulster Championship, Aaron. Obviously, as you were saying, mine is Crossmaglen. That's a huge, I think, bonus for a lot of teams, because Crossmaglen had so much joy in that competition in recent years. So it's a wide open championship, and one we're really looking forward to.
Yeah, and I suppose looking at that Ramor United game against Kilcoo, like how do you think Ramor United would even set up against Kilcoo? Because I suppose for myself personally, and I'm not too sure about you, Matthew, I haven't seen anything really of the Cavan Club Senior Football Championship. And I know, John, you've been doing a number of previews and match reviews and different things on it. I've listened to a few of your different podcasts there. So like how would Ramor United approach that game, do you think? Could that be a defensive game? Could that be two kind of defensive sides, I suppose, blanket defense, all the rest? Or do you think maybe it might be swashbuckling stuff in Ulster in late November or early December?
Well, one thing, Aaron, you're going to be killed, and I don't know if there's any Cavan listeners. It's Ramor United, so you might be shot.
Ramor United, okay. Jeez, I better be careful. I won't go down to Cavan anytime soon anyways. I'll stay well away.
I don't care, but there's going to be some Cavan listener giving in about that. There always is.
There's always something.
Yeah, absolutely. Show business, baby. I hope to God it's a good game, because realistically, you don't kind of get games like this too often. They are two very good attacking teams. They have flair players, the two Johnsons up front for Kilcoo. So it actually has the makings of a cracking game. I suppose conditions, if it's a dry day, I know December could be fairly questionable at times. So you're just hoping for a dry day going into it. You're hoping both teams obviously don't park the bus. That's not Ramor's style. Ramor have some absolutely brilliant forwards, the likes of Sean McAvoy. I think he's being touted to play soccer these days. He's a serious man to kick a ball off the ground. James Brady, Jack Brady have both of county experience. It's going to be a really, really good game. I really do hope it can maybe ignite the Ulster Championship, Ulster Club Championship. It'll be great to see a big crowd in Kingspan Breffney Park in a couple of weeks' time as well. So yeah, just fingers crossed for an exciting game, because we're coming off the back of a good Ulster Cavan Championship here. So yeah, just fingers crossed. And obviously, Ramor did kind of get over two really tough games against Gowan in the finals, and did a very good Cavan Club Championships as well. So we're really looking forward to it, and hopefully it does go well. It lives up to the billing, because Kilcoo are a fantastic team. I think it's a very exciting project and a game for Ramor, because if they get over Kilcoo, the sky is the limit, Aaron.
Absolutely, and I'll throw the image on screen there again, because if you see in the semi-finals box, you've got Ramor United. Hopefully I got it right this time, against Kilcoo. But obviously the winner of that plays Clan Éireann and Kickens Cregan there. Jeez, I'm messing them all up now. So the winner of those two end up playing each other in the semi-finals. So I mean, there is a chance there for Ramor United to go on a bit of a run, I suppose, because Crossmaglen Rangers, for example, aren't in there. Clan Éireann are fresh off there, winning, I suppose, ending a long way for an Armagh senior football title. So, if it is Clan Éireann, who I would expect them to come through, Creggans, in that game. I mean, who knows? And there's another potential story as well for Clan Éireann or Ramor United if they pull through. So that would make for an intriguing game as well, John.
Well, that's exactly it, Aaron. That's my whole point. Like, if they can actually get over the line, and this is all hearsay at the minute, but if they can actually get over the line against a very favourite Kilcoo team, the sky is the limit because you don't have the big hitters. I know Scottstown's a very good team, but if you don't have the likes of maybe St. Gall's in recent years or Crossmaglen involved in the Ulster Club Championship in the knockout stages, that's a huge, huge bonus. So that's why I think, and I know like it's been a kind of thing in Cavan, like we haven't had so much success in the Ulster Club and, write it off and we won the championship and not take the Ulsters too seriously. But I think this is a terrific chance for this Rammer team. So they should grab it with both hands. Kilcoo, it's going to be a huge test, as I keep alluding to. It's home advantage. I keep saying it, the sky's the limit after this game. If they do get over the line, the pedigree, the footballers, they have the game plan. It's all in place for them. So, it's a wide open Ulster Championship. You maybe Scottstown to fear in it. And after that, you could really favour yourself 25-1 shot to win Ulster. Obviously it's very early days to be kind of calling that or kind of looking at them odds. But, if you were a betting man, I think if they were to get over the line against Kilcoo, you definitely would look at Rammer to see how to get on for the rest of the championship, because they keep saying it. If they could get over the line against them, they could be looking at a very long winter.
I mean, stranger things have been done. I mean, I seen you putting up on Twitter there the other day, John, about Cavan's 1-year anniversary of the Ulster Senior Football Championship. So you never know, like if that's possible, beating the likes of Donegal and Monaghan along the way, and then getting relegated to Division 4. I mean, maybe anything's possible.
Oh no, 100%, and that's exactly it. And I think for the times we have it, the conditions that we have, and people's kind of mindset towards football is anything can actually happen. And I think it's nearly like if the Rammer lads need to call on Cavan's success last year to kind of get a few miracles of these games. But Rammer have the footballers on their team that's nearly as good as the Johnsons of these Kilcoo teams. So they really should grab this chance with both hands. And it's not beyond the realms of possibility. They should really believe in themselves. And hopefully, hope to God, obviously, to maybe sober up for winning the championship at this stage and they can get their acts together for the Kilcoo game. So, yeah, it's a massive chance. It's a massive chance. I hope to God they're not going into the mindset, look, if win the Ollie Plunkett, that's it for another year. Get back, regroup in January, February. They have a chance, and I really do hope to take it.
What do you think, Matthew, in terms of Kilcoo being the favourites for the Ulster Club Senior Football Championship? Like, fair enough, they did come through the Ulster in 2019, and they're the only one of the 4 that was in the All-Ireland semi-finals early in 2020 that are still remaining in their provincial club football championship. But it was the first Ulster championship that they came through, and just to play devil's advocate for a minute, I mean, they did struggle getting through Ulster for a number of years there where they were getting beaten by the likes of Scottstown and Crossmaglen Rangers and whatnot. So what do you think? Like, are they the favourites for Ulster, or is there anyone else you think that you'd look at as potential favourites that could win that competition?
I think you have to look at Kilcoo as the obvious favourites for the reason they were in the last All-Ireland final. But I suppose another team to watch, well, I suppose Tyrone won the All-Ireland, but this team needs more recognition. Dromore, I thought they don't necessarily have the players around the pitch. They do have Niall Slund, of course, who's an outstanding player and deserved an All-Star this year, but Dromore plays a team. Emmett McNabb is another player who's absolutely outstanding in the club championship. So they'll be a team to watch, I think. Glen, I suppose, in midfield, they have Conor Glass, who's one of the most talked about players in Ireland at the moment. Scottstown would be the obvious ones as well. Rory Began, etc. Some brilliant players. And of course, why can't Ramor United do, if I'm saying that correctly, John? I suppose, Cavan getting relegated to Division 4 winning Ulster, and the club championship is said to be as unpredictable as the intercounty championship. Why not? And I suppose Clonairon as well. Ulster, the club championship in Ulster is as competitive as the intercounty, in my opinion. It's anything can happen really. Any club can come out of nowhere. Case in point, Kilcoo coming out the last time and winning it for the first time. And look, anything can happen, but you have to put Kilcoo as favourites because of winning the last time. But if I was to say a dark horse for myself in the Ulster, I'd go Dromore from Tyrone. I might be obvious now, seeing it's Tyrone at the All-Ireland champions, and they were live in RT a few weeks ago. But I think they have the components of a great team there.
Yeah, I suppose with Niall Sudden in particular and the form that he's been in, and like you said, Ronan McNabb and Emmett McNabb, but I'm not too sure which one is the lizard or the magpie, but between the two of them anyways, I mean, they're causing all sorts of chaos anyway for a lot of the teams they're coming up against. And yeah, like I'm not too sure. I was having a look there at some of the list of the Ulster Club champions. I'm not too sure if a Tyrone side has actually ever came through the Ulster Club Senior Football Championship before, or maybe I just didn't spot them. But like, I mean, there's a lot of motivation there, definitely, and they're coming up against Derry Gonley Harps or Fermanagh, and then the winner of that will play Scottstown or Waddy Graham's Glen. So, I mean, between the two of them, I mean, that should make for interesting viewing, John. Like in particular, like if Dromore come through that and coming up against the winner of Scottstown or Waddy Graham's Glen, that would be a very good game, and I'd imagine that would be on TV somewhere as well.
Yeah, well, definitely you'd like to imagine so, but I suppose it's funny with these kind of games because obviously, like it is, it's so good for kind of clubs to kind of come through their own kind of county championship, and then it just seems like bonus territory all the time, and a lot of teams don't take it seriously. So like it's a funny thing to say, Aaron, but like a lot of these games literally come down to what, like I know it's a phrase that kind of it's bandied about a lot. Who wants more? But I think when it comes to like the Leinster Championship, Munster Club Championship, Ulster Club Championship, it actually comes down to the team that wants it more and wants to be involved in the competition to get to the semi-finals, to get to the finals. So you're there on merit with the first round. It's bonus territory for a lot of the teams. Do some teams deserve to be there? Who knows? Do some teams are there or they kind of can't there? We just don't know. But I think a lot of the teams that are there do deserve to be where they are. Like Matthew made a good point about Dromore. They're coming in at the cost of Niall Slutton leading the line for them. He's a terrific player. Obviously the likes of Rammer there, like they had a very stiff cap in club championship. Obviously the Derry champions as well. So even the Armagh champions too. So, it just really does depend how far a club team wants to go. You're going to see in a lot of these games, they're probably going to be won in the last 2 or 3 minutes because they're cagey affairs. As you were probably referencing the Cuckoo Rammer game now in a few weeks' time, probably will be cagey, probably will be one of the last 5 or 10 minutes because the legs will be going for a lot of lads because the fitness levels might show. But it really does go to show, and I know it's a common enough phrase, but it really will boil down to who wants it more, who wants to progress for the club, who wants to get onto their county team. And that's what it boils down to, Aaron. Sometimes it's not even a case of setting out to win an Ulster club, because even when you do win your county championship, you're probably not thinking, oh, Jesus, after you win, if you lift the cup, you're not thinking, who are we winning and getting in the first round of Munster club championship or Ulster. You're happy to win your cup, and then it's bonus territory after that. But it really will boil down to who wants more of these games, Aaron, because it's going to be a very interesting couple of weeks.
And what's your opinion, John, on Waddy Graham's Glen? Like, fair amount of hype about them at the minute. Like, seems everywhere. Like, anytime I'm putting some up on Instagram on the page, it always seems to be Waddy Graham's Glen. Like, seen someone even put a comment in there saying, put your mortgage on them going on and winning the All-Ireland. And I'm telling you what, if I put my mortgage on them in that game versus St. Eunan's, you would have been furiously sweating watching that game back, in all honesty. But what's your opinion on them, John?
Look, Matthew made a good point. Like Conor Glass as well, he's absolutely ripping the lights out for them. He's just jumping up in the sky. I thought he's going to give NASA a run for his money in some of them games. But an absolute class act is Conor Glass. I believe he looks up to Brian Fenton in the world midfield. So yeah, he's a class act. If you have him dictating things around the middle, that is a serious addition to any team. He's a leader. Rory Gallagher is absolutely blessed to have him home from Australia. Gallagher is in love with him. I think the whole Ireland's in love with the man at the minute. He's a fantastic leader for them. So again, it's a Derry club. Derry's building up there. Rory Gallagher has a very exciting project. I wouldn't be surprised if they can go far because they have the team, the players to do it. So their journey will be very, very interesting in the Ulster club. So Conor Glass is going to have a big say no matter how far they go.
Yeah, and if you're watching live, feel free to leave your comments in the comment section below, and we'll put them on screen. Sharon Hegarty says there, I would like to see Dromore winning the Ulster Club Championship. So definitely there certainly will be a lot of hype around Dromore, no doubt about it, considering obviously what Tyrone done in the All-Ireland Senior Championship, obviously coming through there. And it's been 2012 since an Ulster side came through the Ulster Club Senior Football Championship. Crossmaglen Rangers were the last team to do so. And like looking at that game, Matthew in particular, and Scottstown versus Waddy Graham's Glen, like it's going to make for a very good game, because like Scottstown are certainly no mugs either, with players in there like Rory Began and Kieran and Darren Hughes, and you've got Conor McCarthy in there as well. So like that's going to be a cracking game. Hopefully, anyways, it might be a bore fest at the same time, but hopefully it's a good game. Like,
I'm hoping it's a good game, especially what happened last Saturday in Kerry. But I suppose, Scottstown definitely have the players, the Hughes brothers and Rory Began. They have the experience. And I suppose Glen be one of the favourites in Ulster, this will be the monumental test for them. If they could get over this hurdle, Scottstown, they'll be talked about as other genuine All-Ireland contenders. They won't be just talked about in the social media or whatever. They'll be talked about genuine All-Ireland contenders all across the media if they beat a team like Scottstown. And they're a brilliant side, Scottstown. Look at them, for begging, of course. But as I said earlier, and as John and yourself have said in the chat already, anything can happen at the club championship. That's the beauty of it. And I suppose Glen could definitely beat Scottstown despite the number of inter-county players Scottstown have and the performances Monaghan had in the All-Ireland Championship. Maybe they could bring that confidence into the club championship against Glen. But I suppose it's who wants it more, as John rightly said there. Like I suppose Glen wanted it more in the end against St. Eunan's. That was the difference in the end. And they'll have to want it more again against Scottstown, because Scottstown, I think, actually have more inter-county talents than St. Eunan's. Like, St. Eunan's were a bit of a shock team coming out of Donegal. So this will be a monumental test for them. If they can get over this, who knows, they can go on and win the All-Ireland. But I suppose put your mortgage in Glen, I suppose that was a bit of premature talk right there.
Yeah, it was a little bit. I mean, considering they had only been fresh off winning the Derry Club Senior Football Championship, it was the first time they won it. Like, unless a lot of these people have the ability to go into the future and have actually seen Glen win the Ulster Club Senior Football Championship and the All-Ireland, then I'd say fair enough. But obviously, I'd highly doubt that's possible. So, like, for Scottstown, like what you said before, Matthew, like they're a team that's definitely going under the radar, in my opinion. Now, I haven't seen any of them at all in 2020 because Monaghan GAA haven't streamed any of their games or anything like that. But I watched a good bit of them in, I didn't watch them in 2021, but in 2020, I seen a bit of them on YouTube and whatnot. And looks like a tremendous amount of talent. And I'm sure, John, you've heard a bit about them, obviously being a Cavan man and the Cavan-Monaghan rivalry and whatnot. So What's your opinion on Scottstown? Could they be a potential dark horse there coming through Ulster?
No, I was just laughing at the Monaghan lads not having any streaming, so they probably can't afford it up there. But
you said that, not me. So I'm staying on the good books for the Monaghan people here now.
I know, a bit of banter. Scottstown, look, as Matthew was rightly saying there, Jesus, like, they're littered with talent. Rory Beggin's probably the best keeper in the game at the minute. Him and Niall Morgan and the Hughes brothers, when you can call on them. Obviously, Kieran Hughes has kind of been in and out of the Monaghan team the last couple of years, but he's a serious man to have around your club. Conor McCarthy, on his day, can be one, like, I think he's 24, 25 now, but he still has a lot of youth in the side. He could be one exciting club player, and even for Monaghan. So he hasn't really kind of got going for Monaghan just yet. I know he had a good year this year, but he hasn't really set the light yet. You're probably, like, I seen an interview with Conor McMahon today for Off the Ball. He's going to give it another year or two, so he's sticking around. So you're kind of looking for that replacement for Conor McMahon up in Monaghan. Is McCarthy the replacement? Is Jack McCarron the replacement? You know, that's what they're waiting for, really. But you know, they have a lot of exciting players. Scottstown, you nearly forget how talented they are. So yeah, they could be really forced to be reckoned with, because they definitely have the players to kind of keep them around, to keep them going.
Yeah, and I suppose we'll run through some predictions then, John. Who are you backing then to come through the Ulster Club Senior Football Championship?
To win it out.
To win it out, right? Yeah.
There's any Cavan people watching. Oh, sure, look, I suppose, you know, your heart would obviously kind of go for the Cavan team, but it's a very, very stiff test against Kilcoo now in a couple of weeks' time. But realistically, I think if you're using your brain, you're probably looking at Kilcoo. I think Match's probably nailed it there. Scottstown do have a serious chance, and I know there's a lot of talk about the Derry champions, Waddy Graham's as well. But no, I think Kilcoo, it obviously depends on how good the performer gets rammed out in a couple of weeks' time. But I think I think they'll be the team to beat, them or Scottstown. But yeah, I think I'll go with Kilcoo.
What about yourself, Matthew?
I'm going to go with someone different. So I'm going to stick with Dromore. I just think it's about time Tyrone team won it. Like, the Tyrone Championship's been absolutely brilliant over the last few years. Like, even Pat Spillane's beginning to enjoy it, and that's saying something. Like, Dromore, they're an underrated side. They're going under the radar, and I think they'll face Kilcoo in the final if it goes that way, of course. And I think they'll win it out. I think Dromore will win the championship. I know it's a bold shout now, but just someone different other than Kilcoo, to be honest. And I think Dromore have the attributes to become the Ulster champions, and whether they can be the All-Ireland champions remains to be seen.
Yeah, like, for myself personally, I think Scottstown are going to go and win it personally. Like, I think, like, fair enough with Kilcoo, I understand obviously why they are the favourites. Like, they came through it 2 years ago and they obviously went all the way to the All-Ireland final. But at the same time, I do think that was nearly 2 years ago. So it has been a long time, and I just have a feel like when Kilcoo were coming through Ulster 2 years ago, there wasn't a whole they didn't have a target on their back. They weren't the main team that everyone was looking at to come through back then. Whereas now, I think a lot of teams are probably going to raise their game an extra 10 to 15%, and that's one of the reasons why I think they'll get caught anyways. But we'll have to wait and see what happens. Like, obviously, none of us can predict the future, and certainly there's a lot of games here, like a lot up for grabs, and a lot of these county championships. I suppose we'll move on to the Munster Club Senior Football Championship, and I'll throw the image on screen there so we can have a look. So you've got the Clare champions, Éire Óg, they're going up against Loughmore Castleiney, and then you've got Newcastle West going up against the Nor, Newcastle West of Limerick and the Nor of Waterford. And Éire Óg, they'll play the Cork champions, and then either Newcastle West or the Nor will take on the Kerry champions. So I suppose, Matthew, looking at it from an outside point of view, I suppose it's easy to assume it would be a Kerry and Cork final, but what do you think yourself?
Yeah, I suppose this championship's no different, be as unpredictable as ever. And case in point, there's a few case in points. Like the Cork champions a few years ago, Carbery Rangers came in 2016. They came up against Denoyer from Waterford, Little Denoyer, and Denoyer actually beat them, a Waterford team. So that was absolutely unbelievable. And even I think it was Austin Stacks or someone losing to Debo Rangers in the semi, or was it Dr. Crokes or someone from Kerry losing in the semi-final to Austin Stacks, and then Clonmel Commercials or Tipperary beating Debo Rangers in the final with the last play of the game. I suppose it was deja vu in 2020, Tipperary beating Cork, but there you go. Yeah, I suppose it's competitive over the last few years, and even I was looking at the stats surrounding this championship. Actually, like the Cork teams have the upper hand in this championship, winning it 29 times. Kerry's 19. So that's something we have the upper hand on Kerry, at least that. But I suppose the outliers was the Colin Cooper, Dr. Crokes team. That was unbelievable from about 11 to about 17. But then Nebo Rangers started winning 2 again. But of course, Nebo Rangers aren't there now. So I suppose it's up to the Bars to carry something for Cork, or if it's Clonakilty, it's going to be them. But you'd expect the Bars to make it through Cork in the end, as much as I want Clonakilty to win it. But I suppose, look, it will be a competitive championship, I think. And Loughmore Castleiney or another team, they're definitely up for it. Éire Óg from Clare have a few county players. I was talking to a Clare person during the week, and they're definitely up for it. Newcastle West have a good midfield with the likes of Keane Sheehan and, of course, Ian Corbett and Limerick stalwart. So it's going to be a competitive championship. Really looking forward to this after the Cork and Kerry championships finish, of course.
Yeah, and I suppose, like, looking at who's been knocked out in all of the different club provincial championships, like, is Munster, is it fair to say maybe that's the weakest of all the provinces left at the minute? Because obviously you look at who's been knocked out. Fair enough, East Kerry are a divisional side, so even if they had a come through Kerry, they wouldn't have been playing in the Munster Club Football Championship anyways. But you don't have Nemo Rangers in there. Dr. Crokes are knocked out. Although Austin Stacks are in the final, I do still think there's vulnerabilities there. And for example, like they're the 7 favourites at the minute, like in the 6 teams ahead of them. So is the Munster Club Football Championship maybe not necessarily the lowest in terms of the standard of players, but just in terms of the teams that's left, and I suppose in terms of what's remaining in the other club football championships?
I think that's a fair assessment, absolutely. And even you said Austin Stacks are the biggest county in Munster according to the odds. And watching Austin Stacks the other night, I'll be honest, it was like watching paint dry. Like, it was absolutely terrible, that game. And look, I don't rate Austin Stacks anyway. Like 2 years ago, they came up against Nebo and Nebo beat them by 18 points. Nebo scored all their 217 from play against Austin Stacks. And this was an Austin Stacks team with Kieran Donaghy up full forward as well. So I don't think they're a great side. If Kieran O'Rahilly is making from Kerry, then I'd be scared. I think they have the talent to win Munster and potentially do well in the All-Ireland series. The likes of Tommy Walsh, Barry John Keane, Jack Savage are very good players, especially Jack Savage the other day played very well for them against Dr. Crokes. So I think it is a fair assessment, yeah, that it is the weakest championship, and even in Cork, Castlehaven and Nemo, who would be the strongest side looking at them from player to player. They're out of the championship, with Castlehaven very unlucky to lose on a penalty shootout. But I'm confident that the Bars could cause an upset in the club championship given the players they have. I don't think people read into the much. The likes of Brian Hayes, Ian Maguire, Stephen Sherlock is in absolute fire in the Cork Championship at the moment, and Sam Ryan at full back is an excellent player as well. So I think St. Finbarrs are a team that could go under the radar. Maybe that's me being a Corkman, but I think St. Finbarrs or Kieran's O'Reilly's will be the front runners for the Munster Championship. Most people think Austin Stacks, but I'm not so sure.
Could Lockmore Castleiney, could they go on a run even with John McGrath there and Brian McGrath, Noel McGrath? I mean, I'm not going to list all the McGraths. There's about 10 of them in there, but I mean, could they go on a run even? I mean, for example, they've got Aero Guinness coming up first, the Clare champions, and then they'll play the Cork champions. So they'll potentially avoid the Kerry champions up until the final. So, I mean, depending on what happens with Lockmore Castleiney and the hurling, because, I mean, those games might end up intersecting with each other at some point, and then John McGrath and all the lads will have to choose who do we play for here. So, I mean, what do you think there, Matthew? Could Lockmore go on a bit of a surprise run?
I think they absolutely can. Like, you look at the final the last day, they were actually missing, I think, Brian McGrath and John Maher, their fullback, against Clonmel Commercials. And Clonmel Commercials have been absolutely unbelievable over the last few years with Mikey Quinlan, Kevin Fahey, etc. Most of the Tipperary team is basically playing for Clonmel Commercials. So that was a brilliant win. To have two of your main players out of that game and go on and win it at the last minute, it was absolutely unbelievable. But I suppose with the dual clubs, I know how hard it is. Like, I'm involved with a junior side in West Cork. We were playing this side in a West Cork final, and they had a West Cork football final as well. They were football and hurling, and they ended up losing both. Like, doing it the dual way is very, very hard, and it takes a lot of commitment. And I suppose it does depend what happens on Sunday between Lockmore Castleiney and Turtle Sarsfields. I'd be confident Turtle Sarsfields will win that game, so I think they'll put the eggs into the basket for the football. As regards the Aero Guinness team, I looked at their team. They actually have some very good players from the Clare County team. Darrell O'Neill, who was outstanding for Clare in the championship and the league especially. Ikeem Oge Barago, I might have butchered that name now, but he's in that team as well. And I suppose Gavin Cooney, corner forward, he's a live wire for Clare at the moment. So they have a very good side. Kieran Russell at centre back as well is a very good player. So they've boasted a Clare team. I'd be confident they'd go on and give Lockmore Castleiney a game. That should be a very good game first day out. But I suppose if the Bars make it through, I think they'll have too much for either Lockmore Castleiney or Aero Guinness. But then again, it's the club championship. Whatever happens. But if Clonakilty make it, I'd actually give the two sides from Clare and Tip a real chance to get to the final against potentially a Kerry side.
Yeah, what about yourself, John? Like, I suppose looking at I don't know if you watched the Kerry game at the weekend there on Saturday night. Maybe you're one of the lucky ones that didn't watch it. But like Kerins O'Reilly's going up there against Austin Sachs. Could you see any of them even potentially going on a bit of a mini run there towards an All Ireland? Or what's your thoughts on Kerry football or the state of Kerry football in general, I suppose?
Yeah, well, I suppose kind of touching on that, Austin Stacks, Kieran Donaghy, to score the winning penalty in the penalty shootout. I think that's probably the highlight of the weekend. He's 38 and he's still mixing it. Fair play to him. It was very exciting, but no, I was partaking a few beers Saturday night, so I missed all the action, but it doesn't sound like I missed much. But very impressive stuff for Austin Stacks and for Donaghy to get over the line there. And I think the big thing is now for Kerry football is kind of push on from this year and kind of obviously get their hands back on that All Ireland title, because it's a football mad county. It's a Sam Riddle mad county. It's Sam or nothing really with them. So it'll be so interesting to see how Jack O'Connor does now. And obviously Paddy Talley in the backroom team, which I thought was quite odd because his track record isn't fantastic. Plays a very defensive brand of football. So it'll be very interesting to see what way the Kerry lads approach the year next year. And I think there was, I think someone was saying, will the bring back Kieran Donaghy at the tender age of 38, seeing as he's flying with the Stacks. But and obviously Tommy Walsh stepping away in the last couple of weeks as well. So people are saying that he have another year to prove. But Kerry football, it's probably just needs a bit of rejuvenation, I think. I think David Clifford, he can't really do it all by himself. I think he will really need help next year. I think Paul Keaney will really need to step up next year. And the likes of, I think it's James O'Donoghue. I think if he can try to get himself fit and back in contention. And, I think there's a lot of obviously pressure on David Clifford to kind of perform every time. So, they really need to inherit a couple of players maybe and kind of really push on next year because, at times there's a lot of pressure up there if they're not getting to the ends of the All Irelands and even trying to win them out, and obviously no better man than Jack O'Connor to kind of get the ship afloat again. But yeah, no, look, the Kerry Club Championship looks very exciting at the minute, and fair play to Mr. Kieran Donaghy scoring the winning penalty in the final, because that's some scenes for him. He probably thought his football days were over. The last couple of years, he's still trucking away. Fair play to him, and life's good. He's getting a few pounds from Armagh, Sky Sports, and it's not a bad time in his life.
No, it's not too bad at all. He's still playing basketball as well, funnly enough. So
how does he find the time?
I've no idea. Like you'd love to know where he gets all this time from. Like from playing basketball, like it honestly wouldn't surprise me if he lined out for the Kerry footballers and they were playing a league game against Armagh, but he was in the dugout as well. Like you look over and you see him in the dugout, but you see him on the pitch at the same time. Like, but fair play to him. Like that deserves a huge amount of credit, and it is kind of like, I mean, it's a typical Kieran Donaghy story. Like, it just had to be him, like Matthew, who scored that last-minute penalty. I mean, like, who else could it be at the end of the day?
Yeah, absolutely. And I suppose that was intentional. Austin Sachs just putting up last in the penalty shootout just to make it more dramatic than the Cork penalty shootout weekend before, when the goalkeeper, John Kearns, saved the penalty and then kicked the penalty. Well, take it which way you want. I don't know which was more dramatic. I'd take the Cork penalty all day long, no matter who it is, Kieran Donaghy or whatever. But anyway, yeah, it just had to be him. And it was a brilliant penalty, to be fair to him anyway. It was a brilliant shootout. And I suppose it was the difference between the two keepers as well. Like Wade Guthrie, it's amazing his story, actually, because a few years ago he was actually playing outfield. He was a forward, then he was a midfielder, and then he's a goalkeeper. And in fairness to him, he actually made a very good save from the Brendan's Board player. So fair play to him for rejuvenating his game anyway. But as you said, it had to be Kieran Donaghy, had to be him to take the winning penalty. But I don't know, was this the most dramatic penalty shootout in Munster? Definitely not in Munster anyway.
Yeah, and I suppose who are you going for then in the Munster Club Football Championship there, Matthew? I mean, are you gonna I suppose nail your pin to the collar with a Cork side, or do you think it will be Cairns O'Rahilly's or Austin Stacks there to prevail?
Like, I'd love to say Clonakilty, because I know the lads personally, and I'd love they won the Cork Championship. Like, I've worked there, I've been to school there. It's absolutely brilliant community, and I hope they win on Sunday, but I just think the Bars will have enough in that. And I think the Bars or Cairns O'Rahilly's would be tough. I don't think Austin Sachs have enough. I've seen enough of them. They're just not winning material, in my opinion. So, you know what, McCartman, I'm just going to go for the Bars. I think they have enough. They have Brian Hayes in midfield, also Ian Maguire, John Kearns in goal, Sam Ryan. They have some brilliant players, and also the brilliant Stephen Sherlock. They also have a down seeder, Conor McCrickard, and Killian Myers-Murray there as well. So why not? I think St. Finbarrs will win this. I don't know when they go on an All-Ireland tour, but they'll give it a right good go anyway, in my opinion. They're an underrated side for the rest of Ireland, in my opinion, especially look at the players all over their team.
Yeah, what about yourself, John? Who would you be tipping to come through Munster there?
Yeah, I suppose the knowledge wouldn't just be fantastic in that neck of the woods, but like I think if Austin Stacks can kind of get going, if Kieran Donaghy, it'd be fairy tale stuff for him to kind of push on with the club, and he definitely is in the fairy tale end of his career at this stage. If he's gone into coaching with a county team, he really is in that neck of the woods. I didn't even know he was still playing football, so fair play to him. So if the Stacks can have a bit of a run in it, and if Kieran Donaghy can keep that side going, keep the momentum up, why not Austin Stacks? Obviously, they've great tradition in Kerry football, and not a bad leader in Mr. Donaghy.
Yeah, I was going to tip Austin Stacks as well, actually, to be fair. I know they haven't looked particularly great, but when you do look at the teams they've beaten, like they beat an East Kerry side that has the likes of David Clifford in there and Paddy Clifford. South Kerry are a fairly decent side as well, and we've seen some of the talent that St. Brendan's have. So I do think Austin Stacks, they will improve more so as the championship goes on. And like what you said, John, there, like a bit of knowledge down Munster wouldn't go astray, definitely. But yeah, I'd probably go with Austin Stacks there as well. We'll move across to Connacht, and we'll throw an image on screen there as well. So we've already, I suppose, had one game there with, or two games with Mountbelly Moylock getting the better of Ballinamore, Sean O'Heslin's. And we also had Turlestrane getting the better of St. Kieran's there as well. So it's Turlestrane of Sligo going up against Knockmore of Mayo. And we've got Mountbelly Moylock of Galway going up against Padraig Pearses of Roscommon. We'll come to you first, Matthew. I was speaking to you there last week and you were saying Ballinamore, Sean O'Heslin's, they could be the dark horse. They could be the team that maybe could go on a bit of a run. And at the time I was thinking, Mount Ballymoylock should dispatch them fairly comfortably. And you weren't too far off in the end. Like, they were close enough. They were leading by 6 points at half time. And on another day, like, they could have got that victory and that would have been a huge win for them.
Yeah, and I suppose what tipped that for me to say that was watching the Leitrim final TGR, and I was taking stats obviously in that game, and I was just shocked at the accuracy from the Leitrim players that day was absolutely incredible, and this quality shown, like, it was better than any other county in my opinion. Like, you look at the Kerry final, Dublin final, Mayo final, the Leitrim final topped the whole lot of them, and that tells you something. Like, there was some brilliant quality in that game, and I knew Ballinamore, Sean O'Heslin's would put it up to Mount Ballymoylock because I thought, yes, they beat Corfin, but they also lost to Mike Cullen last year. So there was a bit of vulnerability there in that Mount Ballymoylock team, and I thought Ballinamore would give them a real good go, and in fairness, they actually did, and they almost won that game. They were very, very unlucky not to win it at the end, and yeah, I suppose that was the advantage of showing that Leitrim final at TG4. I think Andy Moore would be rubbing his hands with delight seeing the amount of players he has at his disposal now. And I suppose after their 24-point hammering against Mayo, it gave the county a bit of a lift. And that's what they needed, in my opinion, with this performance from Ballinamore. And of course, the quality shown in that Leitrim final, I thought it was absolutely superb.
Yeah, I mean, like, the quality they played with, definitely. Like, and I'm sure Andy Moran was probably watching somewhere at home anyways and thinking he's got a good crop of players anyway there to work with. And looking at the other side of the draw there, John, you've got Knockmore going up against Thurles of Sligo. I mean, you'd probably have to fancy Knockmore to come through that, and I suppose it would probably be them and either Mount Ballymoylock or Padraig Pearses in the final.
I'm like a man in a court case here at the minute. I'm just going to plead not guilty to all this. So my honesty is probably going to be a bit flawed. But look, from my knowledge of that, Kevin McLaughlin's club, I think. So that's obviously good. That's obviously a massive addition, and he's flying at the minute. He's been a great servant to Mayo football. So obviously, they'd be strong favourites going into that game. But again, Aaron, there's been upsets in this club championship. You wouldn't know. This could be the weekend for it again. Kevin McLaughlin, obviously all the heartbreak he's had with Mayo, obviously this year again, unfortunately, he'll be mad to right that wrong. So again, similar enough to Kieran Donaghy, that man's been on the road a long time. What says, he has a long winter. He'd love a run with his club. It could continue this weekend. It could end this weekend. But by God, if for favourites going in, favourite tag at these club games, it doesn't seem to be suiting a lot of teams. So they could be bet, they could be the win. But he'd love to get a win this weekend. It's just continue the journey, because in fairness, when you're at the latter end of the championship in the bleak midwinter, as they say, it's a good position to be in.
100%, and there's the JMac podcast commenting on the live show. So yeah, anyone watching, go and check out the JMac podcast here. It's pretty good. A good few Cavan previews and whatnot. I'm sure you'll be doing a preview for the Rammer United game going up against Kilcoo, anyways.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Enjoying the crack now the last couple of weeks. Some very controversial kind of characters on now the last couple of weeks. I'm hearing a lot of feedback, good and bad. So it's good crack the last while. So yeah, really looking forward to doing a preview next week for the Kilcoo game. Might get a down end of things and a Cavan end of things going into that. So yeah, just buzzing for the game.
And I suppose swinging it back then to the Connacht Club Senior Football Championship, Matthew, our Padraig Pearses, like, I was just looking at them, like, are they going under the radar a bit? Could they cause a bit of an upset against Mount Ballymoylock? Like, I watched their final against Clan Gael. It wasn't a particularly great game, but they got the job done and they done what was necessary. I suppose a lot of counties coming through their respective county championships. So could they spring a bit of an upset against Mount Ballymoylock? I'm sure they would have taken a bit of inspiration from Ballinamore's performance against them anyways.
They would have, absolutely. And I suppose what Padraig Pearses have above the Connacht teams is history. Like, I suppose not more haven't been competitive in the last few years. Mount Ballymoylock definitely haven't. Like, they haven't been in Connacht in years. Like, Corfin is the obvious reason there. Thurles, like, they're big parts. So they only beat St. Kieran's from London by 5 points. So I suppose they do have Liam Gahan in the team, so maybe they could be a trip. But back to Padraig Pearses, yeah, the Dailies are looking very good. Hubert Darcy is good at this level as well. So, of course, they have a great chance, and they have the history as well behind them. And most people aren't talking about them. They're talking about Knockmore or Mount Ballymoylock. The obvious reason they're from Galway and Mayo. So, yeah, I suppose Padraig Pearses are the team going under the radar, which is a bit surprising because they're arguably the most historic team out of the three of those sides. And I think they should be talked about a bit more, to be honest. The likes of the Dailies there and Hubert Darcy, as I said, some brilliant players there, and they're just not talked about enough. So, of course, they can win it. So, I think, would they be the favourites of winning it? Probably not. I think Knockmore would probably be the favourites, but they probably should be considering the history they have behind them.
Yeah, is that who you're tipping then in that case? Knockmore to come through the Connacht Championship, or do you think maybe Mount Ballymoylock or I suppose Padraig Pearses or maybe even Thurles Strand? Who do you think?
I think it'll be Knockmore. I just looked their team over the last few days, and I suppose the final against Mayo, it wasn't the best of quality, but even if you just looked at the final, it was the referee blowing free after free. Like, there was 54 frees, I think I counted the last day. Like, it was absolutely incredible, and incredible in a bad way. I think the referee stopped at start, and it was very niggly, and Knockmore won that game out at the end. It's a decent Belmullet side with Ryan O'Donoghue in that team, and you look at Knockmore's team all over the pitch. Colin Flynn from wing backs, a very good player. Kevin McLaughlin, as you both said, is a very experienced campaigner. And Darren McHale in the forwards and Aidan Orme, they've been brilliant in the Mayo Championship over the last few years, and they could definitely trouble the Connacht defences. And I think it'll be a Padraig Pearses and Knockmore final. I think Knockmore will just have enough to win it, and just because of the players they have in their team, and they'll give it a right go in the All-Ireland, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think so as well. Like, I think their age profile is pretty good as well. Like, they've a lot of young players coming through, and they've got a mix of, I suppose, like what you said, Aidan Orne and Conal Dempsey and a few others, and then you've got the experience in there, and Kevin McLaughlin and Darren McHale as well. I do think Darren McHale is an injury at the minute. I don't know if he'd be back for the Thurles Strand game. But what about yourself, John? Would you be, I suppose, on board with the Knockmore train, or are you gonna, I suppose, divert and go somewhere else?
No, I tell you what, I'll be on board with it. I'll be on board with it because if I didn't jump at that train, I don't know what train I jump on. So yeah, I'll go with the lads. But you know the crack. But I had to laugh. You're counting 54 frees. Fair play for having that knowledge. Jesus Christ, how was your wrist not broke?
Yeah, I mean, looking at that. I mean, looking at that game in particular, like, that was just I wouldn't like to do that job, anyways.
Yeah. So fair play to you, Matthew. Jesus Christ, I don't know how you kept up with all that.
I suppose hurling's the tougher, like, football's most. Well, I suppose I don't want to take a dig at Ulster football now, but Ulster football is probably the easiest because the game moves a lot slower. There's a lot of hand passes, and hurling's a lot faster. But I suppose as long as you get used to it, it's absolutely grand. But the Ulster games are probably the best. They're not the best to watch though, but they're the best to do stats on. So go up to Ulster.
Fantastic. Dagger into my heart there, Matthew.
Hitting a man while he's down. I suppose we'll crack on with the Leinster Club Championship anyways. We'll throw an image on screen there anyway. So Wolf Tones of Meath going up against Kilmacud Crokes of Dublin, Shell Milliers of Wexford going up against Nave Martin of Louth, and then Blessington of Wicklow going up against Naas of Kildare. I suppose, coming to you first of all, John, I mean, Kilmacud Crokes would be the obvious favourites there, and but I suppose this isn't like with the county championship, for example. You take one look at this and you'd say, oh sure, Dublin are going to win that. It's not even a matter of question. But we've seen down the years, like St. Vincent's got beat by Ratnew, Kilmacud Crokes themselves got beaten by Mullinachta. So although they are the favourites, it's not exactly a given that they're just going to walk through this.
Well, exactly, Aaron, 100%. And obviously, we've seen brief couple of minutes of the game on Sunday in the final, like in Parnell Park. Very poor game, very low scoring game. So that's what I mean. Like that's what it's going to keep coming down to, and especially in the Leinster Club Championship. And you see, you followed Vincent's closely in it in years gone by. They just scrape through games. That's all you do in this. Like, you're not going to win pretty. You're not going to go out and play nice tiki-taka football, fancy football. It's all about just getting over the line. They won't care if they win by 1 or 2 points this weekend. They'll be over the moon. afternoon. Seeing Paul Mannion speaking after the game, I think he's really enjoying his club football at the minute. I'm not sure what his allegiances are to the Dublin panel at the minute. I think there's word on the street that he might be finished, so that's a big blow for Desi Farrell for next year if it is true. But he looks like he's really enjoying his club football. Fair play to him. Craig Diaz still lording stuff around the middle of the field. Fair play. He's still going strong. So Killian, they're very, very strong. Paul Mannion is match winner on this day, probably one of the best forwards in Ireland. So Killian, look, they won't care if they win fancy, whatever way it is this weekend, 3 or 4 points, they will take it. They're strong favourites for the Leinster club, and all the reason for it, because they are stacked with players. And like, you know, it's like anything else, Aaron, we've had numerous conversations about like lads dropping away from the Dublin panel and stuff, but like to have a fully fit Paul Mannion at your disposal this time of year, it's like having it's like having a god around the place, because it's so good to see him around. I'd say the club lads love seeing him. He's a terrific forward. He'll win a game for you by himself. So Aaron, look, he is a huge addition to that team.
Yeah, and I found it interesting, all right, the manager Robbie Brennan coming out and just dismissing completely that Paul Mannion will be returning to Dublin in any shape or form in the future. But I mean, we'll see what happens. And like what you said, because I'd say probably around mid-December, early January, that's probably when the county would come calling, and players like Paul Mannion, if he was involved with the Dublin panel, would probably get pulled away. So yeah, to have him fully fit in there as well, and players in there like Craig Diaz and Darragh Mullen, and you've got Cian O'Connor coming off the bench, and Callum Pearson as well. I mean, what do you think, Matthew? Are they the obvious favourites to come through this in this Leinster Championship?
Yeah, of course they are. Like, they're from Dublin, of course they're the favourites. Like, who else would be in Leinster, to be honest? But I suppose Dan O'Brien is another player that caught my eye as well for Kilmacud Crokes over the last few weeks. So I thought he was absolutely superb in the semi-final. I didn't watch the final, though, thank God. I did a vote on my Instagram whether to watch the Dublin final or the Cork hurling final. Thank God they voted for the Cork hurling final, I'd say that. But
you'll have to do a giveaway now or something.
Absolutely. But I suppose Dan O'Brien, going back to him, like, I don't know what's happened to him over the last few years coming off the Dublin panel. Like, I was watching Dublin Mayo before lockdown in the league 2020, and the two young players that I thought would come out and take Ireland by storm after that game would be Oisin Mullen and Dan O'Brien. In fairness, Oisin Mullen has. Dan O'Brien, I don't know, he's fallen off the radar, has he been injured or what, but certainly this club championship for Kilmacud, he's been absolutely superb. Paul Mannion's been brilliant as well. Rory O'Carroll experienced at the back as well for them. So, of course, they're favourites, but two underdogs that I would say, Naomh Martin from Louth and St. Lomans from Westmeath. I think they're very good sides. When you look at the county players there, I think they'll be dark horses to challenge Kilmacud Crokes. Maybe even Naas from Kildare as well. There's a good story going on there. So I suppose it'll be a good Leinster Championship, but I think Kilmacud would be the obvious favourites.
Yeah, like Naomh Martin in particular, like you said before, like 216 versus Rafferty, like to be scoring 216 in a club game is very impressive around this time of the year, especially on a weekend where we were seeing so many low-scoring games. Any of them, John, that you think could pull off a shock there, or any potential? I mean, I'm sure you've heard about Mullinachta down the years and the shock that they've pulled off. We've seen what Blessington done to them. So any one of those sides maybe you could see potentially going on a bit of a run and pulling off a bit of a shock in that Leinster Championship.
Yeah, well, you're probably looking at the Naas end of things there. Like, you know, if you've Leper Callahan still going strong and Owen Doyle, like, they're two terrific players, two terrific servants for Kildare football over the years. And I know there was a bit of uproar and uneasy vibes going on in the Naas camp. And I think there was a few WhatsApp messages going on about the manager. So that's probably for another day's discussion. But fair play to Leper and the boys stepping up to the plate. Like, you know, that's not easy circumstances. Great stalwart. So Naas definitely are in with a shout, I think. That would be great for Kildare football. Kildare football is on the rise now again. The three great men to lead them forward next year with Johnny Doyle and Dermot Hurley. So, Kildare football really needs a bit of a kick, especially in the club. Really need to start producing players. They really need to kind of start, producing teams that will put it up to likes against Dublin and Meads in the Leinster Championship. So the Leinster Championship, it will only improve from that. But you're probably looking at Naas, to maybe cause a bit of an upset now for the rest of the Leinster Championship. But again, Matthew, you probably did nail it there. Kilmacud Crokes are realistically the favourites. Any day you Paul Mannion on your team, that's nearly worse. two players at this stage. He's that quick, he's that good. So Naas and Kilmacud Crokes, I think probably will actually be fairly dominant. Naas probably is suiting them, not much talk about them, not much hype. So I think them two teams are in for a long championship, I think.
Yeah, and I think the route of the final as well would pick if Naas were to win all their games and Kilmacud Crokes were to win all their games, they'd eventually meet each other in a Leinster Club Senior Football Championship. And don't forget Derek Irwan in there as well, and that like crazy last minute goal against Tullamore, which I suppose very much depicts the club championships in many ways. I suppose, are we all tipping Kilmacud Crokes to come through Leinster then, or is anyone brave enough to go against the norm and I suppose go for a bit of an outside prediction?
Put the teams up for one second there, and we'll have a quick look.
Yeah,
just for the crack, shake things up a bit.
Sure, why not? You're a brave man here now. You're going against the Dublin side.
Oh no, Wolftones Shell Mailers. I like the name of that Wexford team. Are they any good?
Yeah, and I should point out actually as well, for some reason Gary or St. Lomans and who are St. Lomans playing against again?
Port Arlington, I think it is.
Port Arlington, yeah. For some reason they're not up there, so I don't know who's looking after Wikipedia, but they'd want to sort that out.
Oh god, yeah, big time, Aaron. And many's the time I've got player figures wrong, and I've got called out in the podcast. So, a bit of advice for these lads: always ask the players before you go on about their statistics. Just for the crack, Aaron. I know Kilmacud are strong favourites, but just for the crack, I'll go with Naas. Siege mentality after their manager Sullivan Pups.
There you go. And yourself, Matthew, you're sticking with Kilmacud Crokes, or are you turning now as well?
You know what? I'm going to go someone different as well. I'm going to go St. Lomans. I just looked at their team. I don't know. I just looked at their team.
It is the club championship, lads. It's not like it's the county championship. Like, you have very individually brilliant players on each team. Like Lepper, Callaghan, Owen Doyle, Derek Irwin. Like, they're serious players for Naas side of things. St. Lomans are stacked at John Heslin as well. So it's not the county. It's not the county anymore, lads. Any of them teams, all them teams would be mad to take a scalp on Kilmacud Crokes. So.
I do agree to a certain extent. Like, I do think Kilmacud, like the fact that I am surprised that Kilmacud Crokes are the All-Ireland favourites. Like, I will say that straight out. It does surprise me in that kind of aspect, because they do have probably the best forward left in the club championship in the country in terms of Paul Mannion. But when you take Paul Mannion out of there, like, I mean, they don't
that's
really.
What I'm thinking. If they've come up against a good team, if they come up against the likes of Matthew was saying St. Lomans or if they come down the latter end of things and they come up against the Kilcoo, like, I genuinely think Kilcoo might have two lads, like a man marker and obviously the marker himself to stop Mannion. So there's obviously other provinces that need to take care of themselves. But down the line, I think Kilmacud will probably run into a bit of bother.
Yeah, I think they could as well. But personally, I'm going to stick with them to come through Leinster. I think they have enough there, in my opinion. I'd look at Naomh Martin as the team to get to the final. I think it would be the two of them in the final. The sneaky feeling Naomh Martin could pull that off, but I suppose although I am a north side man on Dublin, I will stick with the side from the south side to progress through the Leinster Club Senior Football Championship. I suppose the next question is the big one, really, an All-Ireland prediction. I don't know who wants to go first here, but this is the big one now in terms of who we think is going to win the All-Ireland.
Oh God. It's a long way to go, lads. There's going to be lots of trills and spills between now and then. There's going to be a lot of trills and spills between now and then. You'd be a brave man to call that. Look, I think Mannion probably would really love to win an All-Ireland club, seeing as he's not involved with Dublin. He looks like he's thrown all his eggs into one basket with Kilmacud, so he'll be like Jeremy Connolly was with St. Vincent's. He'll do it by himself if he has to.
Yeah.
It's a very hard. I don't know what you think, Matthew. I think I need a couple more seconds to think.
Phone a friend.
I don't know. I don't know. Like, I've memorised my predictions though, and as according to my predictions though, the semi-finals would be Dromore against St. Finbarrs. No, I'm not this, boys. I'm going to go Dromore to win that. I think they're a decent side. Not more against St. Lomans. I'm going to go not more. I just think they'll have enough. So it's a Mayo Tyrone final again. Like, who would have thought that? I'm going to go not more. I'll do it for the Mayo boys. I'm gonna go not more to win the All-Ireland.
There you go. Well, I'm sure that will make the Mayo people happy anyways, or well, some of them anyway. The Knockmore fans, I suppose, will be very happy to hear that. I think Knockmore have definitely got the potential to win an All-Ireland at some stage. Like, I don't know, like, I know I tipped Knockmore to come through Connacht, but I would still look at Mountbelly Moylock as the potential team that if they were to come past Knockmore, if they were to come through Connacht, I feel like they'll win the All-Ireland personally. Do think Knockmore have a little bit more than them at this moment in time, but yeah, like for my own prediction, like personally, I have gone like, oh geez, I don't know. What do you think, John? I'll pass it over to you quickly here.
Jesus Christ. Yeah, look, lads, it's dodgy territory at the minute. It was hard calling the games. Never mind who's going to win the All-Ireland, but I don't know. Look, lads, it's a very, very hard one to call. There's going to be lots of trills and spills, ups and downs, last minute winners, last minute this, that, and the other. You haven't a clue. Penalties at a time, like you don't know what direction to go with. But neck of the line, I think, I'll be watching Kilcoo very closely against Rammer, but I think Kilcoo, I'll just go with Kilcoo, but like I don't know how you're supposed to call it. I'll just go with Kilcoo, but that's just a golf shite. Just throwing his name into the hat more than anything, really.
yeah.
I'm a clue, Aaron. That's honest, but.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. I think if Scottstown can come through Ulster, to be honest, I think whoever comes through Ulster, I think will win the All-Ireland. I think that's a fair assumption in my opinion. I think whether it's Kilcoo, whether it's Scottstown, Dromore, even potentially as well.
I think Kilcoo have a great bottle about them. Like I think they've a great fighting spirit. Their management team is Mickey Moore and Conor Gilligan, two boys know the crack inside out. So as you say, if it maybe will come from Ulster, but I don't think there's just something maybe about Scottstown over the years that they kind of have lost big games. So I think if it was to come from Ulster, I think you're probably looking at Kilcoo, Aaron. But yeah, again, I'll be watching them very closely against Rammer and see how they get on.
Yeah, and I suppose we definitely will find out more as we go along. Anyways, like a lot of these games, I believe are going to be on TG Cahir and RT and whatnot, and hopefully won't be on the dodgy Ulster GAA TV or some of the other dodgy streaming sites along the way. Hopefully, anyways, we get to witness some cracking games.
Yeah. The Rammer games on RT, I think, as well. The Saturday night, 5 or 6 o'clock. So Calvin's going to be up at lights, lads.
Perfect.
The car football finals on Sunday, live on the Irish Examiner, Clonakilty against St. Vidbar, so it should be a cracker, judged by the semi-final penalty shootout between the Bars and Castlehaven. We could see a Clonakilty win, we'll never know, but it's live on the Irish Examiner anyway if you want to check that out.
Yeah, I would go and promote Dublin, but I don't think anyone really wants to hear about Dublin anymore. I think everyone would just switch off then, in all honesty. So I think on that note we'll probably wrap this up anyways. John, I suppose if anyone's looking to check out your podcast or any of your work or anything like that, where can they find you?
Yeah. Twitter at the JMac podcast, and just on my Facebook page, John McMahon, add me as a friend, and I'll gladly accept you as long as you're not one of these people sending these Facebook messages at 4 or 5 in the morning looking for millions and millions of euros. So there's not millions of cabins, so don't worry, lads. But so add me a friend on Facebook and Twitter at the JMac podcast, on YouTube, the JMac podcast, and like and subscribe. Thanks a million, guys.
Perfect. And what about yourself, Matthew?
Yeah, at GA_Statsman on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook as well, and doing a bit of work on TikTok as well. And check me out on Spotify, Apple, Anchor, and I might promote some YouTube videos. I have an editing app now from a module I'm doing in college, so I might produce some YouTube videos for my podcast soon, but we'll have to wait and see. But for now, just check out Spotify, Anchor for the podcast, and it's all over social media, GA_Statsman.
Perfect. Yeah. Well, I'll link all the podcasts down below for both yous. And yeah, cheers anyone who tuned in. Feel free to leave your comments down below as to who your picks are for the All Ireland. And if you could like and subscribe, I would very much appreciate it. And I'll see you